of Muslim Psychologist, Dr. Bagus Riyono, M.A. Psikolog.
Lecturer at the Faculty of Philosophy, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Dr. M. Rodinal Khoir Khosri, S.Phil, M.Phil.
And the invited guest lecturers and all of the participants.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome
to the International Seminar on Islamic Thought and Civilization 2025.
My name is Pandu Arita Dharma Pratama.
And my name is Sruni Salsabila Putri Basuki.
As the Master of Ceremony, and it is a great honor for us to welcome you to this event.
On behalf of the organizing committee, it's an honor and privilege to welcome you to this special occasion. We are deeply grateful for your presence and participations in today's agenda.
Before we begin, allow me to present the agenda for today. First, the opening ceremony. Second, we will sing the Indonesia National Anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Hymne Gadjah Mada. Third, recitation of the Holy Quran, then the welcome and opening speech. Next is the presentation from the keynote speakers, followed by a panel discussion. And lastly, the closing.
Before we move on to our next agenda, we would like you please rise. We will begin this remarkable event with a sense of unity and pride as we stand for the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and followed by Hymne Gadjah Mada. Thank you, and please kindly be seated.
The next agenda is recitation of the Holy Quran, which will be delivered by Mr. Hilmi. To Mr. Hilmi, the floor is yours.
Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار صدق الله العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Hilmi, for the beautiful recitation of the Holy Quran. May the recitation of Holy Quran bring blessing and grace to our event this morning.
Next, the first welcoming speech is from the Director of Planning, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Mr. Eli Susanto, SIP, MBA, PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Eli Susanto, PhD.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellency Chairpersons, Board of Professor Baiguni, Excellency Chairman of Masjid Kampus UGM, Management Committee, Dr. Muhammad Yusuf, distinguished scholar and speakers, Professor Dr. Jasser Auda, morning. Professor Dr. Heddy Shri Ahimsa-Putra, morning. Dr. Bagus Riyono M.A, morning. Dr. Rodinal Kair Kasri, morning. And Professor Arkam, the organizing committee. It is great honor for me to deliver this welcome address on behalf of the rectors of Universitas Gadjah Mada at the International Seminar on Islamic Thought and Civilization. On behalf of the university, I extend our warmest greetings and heartfelt appreciation to all participants joining us from various institutions and countries. These seminars serve as a meaningful platform for scholars and practitioners to explore the richness of Islamic thought, reflect upon its timeless contribution to human civilization, and discuss its relevance to the challenge of our modern world. In an era of rapid transformation, socially, technologically, and ethically, it becomes ever more important to revisit the intellectual, moral, and spiritual foundation that have guided humanity for centuries. Our hope is that these seminars becomes a space for productive dialogues, critical reflection, and meaningful collaboration, leading to ideas that strengthen our shared vision for a civilization grounded in the knowledge, ethics, and human dignity. On behalf of the rectors, I would like to express a sincere appreciation to all distinguished speakers, the organizing committee, and participants for their dedication and contribution. May this seminar bring enlightenment, inspiration, and collective wisdom for the advancement of Islamic thought and global civilization. Thank you very much. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Eli Susanto, PhD, for the welcoming speech.
Next, a welcoming speech from Chair of the Universitas Gadjah Mada Council of Professors, Professor Dr. Muhammad Baikuni, M.A. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Muhammad Baikuni, M.A.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Excellencies, Rector Universitas Gadjah Mada, who represented by Director of Planning, Dr. Eli Susanto, PhD, Chairman of Masjid Kampus Universitas Gadjah Mada Management Committee, Dr. Muhammad Yusuf, M.A., distinguished scholars, speakers, and moderator, Professor Dr. Jasser, Auda, founder of Maqasid Institute, Professor Dr. Heddy, Shri, Ahimsa-Putra, M.Phil, Dr. Bagus, Riyono, M.A., Dr. M. Radinal Khair Hasri, M.Phil, ladies and gentlemen, and also our colleague here, philosopher Dr. Arkom Kuswandono, who lead the prophetic lecture series in Universitas Gadjah Mada, the organizing committee, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is great honor to me to welcome you all in this very important international seminar, especially because today is Sunday and we work very hard during the holiday. And this topic is very quite interesting. The Islamic thought and civilization. And today we gather not only academics, researchers, but also the thinkers and wisdom activists, the students, in advancing our knowledge and understanding rooted values in Islam. This conference stands a vital platform for dialogue, a meeting point between tradition and modernity, between faith and reason, between local wisdom and global challenge. As we face the complexities of the 21st century, from moral crisis to social inequalities, from environmental degradation to the digital transformation, the intellectual heritage of Islam offers timeless guidance and inspiration. Throughout history, Islamic civilization illuminates the world with its contribution to science, philosophy, arts, governance, and ethics. The work of all scholars like Al-Farabi, Al-Ghazali, Ibn Khaldun, two contemporary thinkers continue to inspire a holistic vision of knowledge that integrates faith, reason, and comparison. In this spirit, our conference theme, Reconnecting Our Faith, Knowledge, and Civilization for a Sustainable Future, invite us to reflect daily on how Islamic thought can contribute to the renewal civilization today. We aim to rediscover the ethical and spiritual foundation that can guide technological progress, social justice, and sustainable development in our interconnected world. I hope this seminar comes up with 5 proposals on research collaboration and action. For example, the philosophical and wisdom, science and technology, socioeconomic and cultural transformation, medical and health system, as well as the environment and global climate crisis we have to tackle with Islamic thought and to promote our better world. I extend my sincere gratitude to all the organizers, keynote speakers, and participants who have contributed to making this event possible. May this gathering to be filled with insightful discussion, meaningful collaboration, and renewed commitment to build our better future, one grounded in the several values of peace, justice, and mercy. Once again, welcome to this conference. May Allah bless our effort and grant success to our deliberation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Muhammad Baikuni MA, for the welcoming speech.
And now we will move to the main session. Our keynote speakers are Professor Dr. Heddy Shri Ahimsa-Putra M.A. M.Phil from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Professor Dr. Jasser Auda from Maqasid Institute, and Dr. Bagus Riyono M.A. Psikolog from International Association of Muslim Psychologists. This session will be moderated by Dr. M. Rodinal Khair Khosri, S.Phil, M.Phil.
Before the moderator starts the session, please allow me to read the short CV of Dr. M. Rodinal Khair Khosri, M.Phil. Dr. M. Rodinal Khair Khosri, M.Phil is a lecturer in the Faculty of Philosophy at Universitas Gadjah Mada. He obtained his doctoral degree from Universitas Gadjah Mada. Currently, his expertise is in hermeneutics and philosophy of religion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. M. Rodinal Khair Khosri, M.Phil.
Cik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for inviting me and trust me as a moderator for this very excellent event. Today we are going to together to discuss a lot of things related to how we build a connection between scientific thought, the way the science itself developed the method, and how to make a bridge between the claim from the science itself and the metaphysical claims that, we easily find in religious argument. For example, in developing or in explaining the nature itself. Before we start, I would like to praise to Allah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, because of His mercy, we can gather today, and peace and blessing be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his family and his companions. And thank you very much, Mr. Eli Susanto and Professor Baikuni, as your very excellent welcoming speech, and also our honorable speakers, Professor Dr. Heddy Shri Ahimsa-Putra, Dr. Bagus Riyono, and Professor Dr. Jasser Auda. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Professor, And also all esteemed participants who has been joined today's meetings. Welcome to the International Seminar on Islamic Thought and Civilization with the specific theme, Islamization of Knowledge and Islam as Science, the Future of Islamic Thought. As I mentioned before, why we gather here, because we are searching and composing the clear path, methodologically, to face so many challenges, contemporary challenges that come from not only West itself, but also paradigmatically, it comes from, for example, new atheism, secularism, especially methodological secularism that avoid to involve religious authority in doing observations in terms of scientific works. And we hope that today's discussion will enrich our knowledge, our experience, because we have three distinguished speakers here, especially Prof. Heddy and Prof. Jasser Auda, so we can take these issues methodologically and find the clear paths on that. Before I please the speakers, let me introduce briefly one of our first speakers, Professor Dr. Heddy Shri Ahimsa-Putra, M.Phil. Prof. Heddy is widely known for his work in cultural anthropology, philosophy of culture, and also Islamic civilization studies. And also is one of Kunto Wijoyo's pupils, yeah. And previously he write the commentaries on Kunto Wijoyo's thought. And our second speaker, Dr. Bagus Riyono, M.A. Psikolog. He is president of the International Association of Muslim Psychologists, a pioneering scholar in Islamic psychology, whose works explore how psychology can be grounded in Islamic epistemology and also spiritual wisdoms. And the last speakers, Professor Dr. Jasser Auda, M.Jur PhD, is the founder of the Maqasid Institute, a world-renowned scholar in Islamic thought and systemic thinking, widely recognized for his reformulations of Maqasid al-Shari'ah as a dynamic methodology for contemporary challenges. Please welcome the keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Heddy Shri Ahimsa-Putra. The durations for your presentations around 15 minutes. Yeah, we hope that you finish on that time. And the title, he will present prophetic methodology as the future of Islamic thought. Please welcome Prof. Heddy Shri Ahimsa.
Excellency Rector Universitas Gadjah Mada, in this case represented by Director of Planning, Dr. Eli Susanto, Chair of Professor Council, Professor Baikuni, and my colleagues, Mas Arkom, Mas Yusuf, and distinguished guests, colleagues, selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera for all of us. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma sholli ala nabil hashimi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sallim taslima. Illahi anta maqsudi wa ridhaka matlubi a'tini muhammadaka wa ma'rifataka wa atini makabada. Praise be to Allah who permits us to gather today at this honorable international seminar, and thank you very much for giving me the honor to deliver the keynote speech here. I was asked by the organizer of this conference to talk about prophetic methodology, which is actually a hard topic for me. Yeah. It's difficult actually, but I could not escape, yeah, so I have to do that. So I will present some of my ideas on that topic today. I hope my PowerPoints can be presented here. The first question that may arise is, what is prophetic? I think this is the question that we usually have in our mind when we heard the word prophetic. You know? And what is prophetic methodology like? As we know, prophetic is an English word. It is from the word prophet, which means Nabi or messenger of God. Then we have prophecy, which means related to prophet, and which also means prediction, forecast. Prophetic also means having characters of prophet or related to prophet. And methodology is the science of methods. It is this methodology that distinguishes science from non-science. The second question is, why are we discussing prophetic science and methodology at UGM, Gadjah Mada University? A brief history on the emergence of prophetic science development activities at UGM need to be given. As we know, some of us maybe already know that the pioneer of the prophetic science at UGM was Professor Kunto Wijoyo, late Professor Kunto Wijoyo, a professor of history at the Faculty of Cultural Sciences, Fakultas Ilmu Budaya, Jurusan Sejarah. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, this is as far as I know at the time, there was a sense of unease or urgency among Indonesian Muslim intellectuals concerning the social, political, and scientific developments in the country, Indonesia, under the new order. There was a spirituality or transcendency that was perceived to be missing in university education. Mas Kunto apparently experienced the same. He then wrote some books in which he laid out his main ideas about Islam and science, from which sprang his view of Islam as a science. From his writings, the terms prophetic social sciences and the paradigm of Islam, or Islam as a paradigm, emerged. Sadly, Mas Kunto was called to meet his Lord before he could fully write down all his ideas. Please, next slide. So, yeah, these are the questions that at the time we have, and also the urgency that some of my friends had in late 1980s, early 1990s at the time. So there was kind of spirituality that was lost in UGM. When you studied at UGM, if you are a Muslim, you'll ask, where is the Quran? Where is the Hadith? In our discourse in the classroom, such questions, yeah, arose at that time. Okay, for the next, please. Now, and at the time, the trend is that we separate science and religion. Religion is religion. Yeah, you do that in the mosque. Yeah, science is in the classroom, in the university. So we really make separation this two realms. Yeah, and Mas Kunto Wijoyo proposed a different way of looking at Islam, a new perspective, which we call a new paradigm. Lanjut. Now, this is Mas Kunto, a picture of him, and he proposed that religion is not opposed to science, yeah? And Islam is science. Islam is a paradigm. Yeah? And you know, at the time, the word paradigm is not yet quite familiar, although Thomas Kuhn has written his book in 1960s, but the word paradigm becoming popular in Indonesia, that's around early 1980s. Yeah? And that was the time when Mas Kunto wrote his books. And the ideas were seen as an alternative to Western ideas of science and religion. And these are the ideas that we try to develop today at UGM. Lanjut. And these are the intellectual thinkers who had inspired Mas Kunto to write his book. That is Muhammad Iqbal and Roger Charot from France. Lanjut. And these are the books that Mas Kunto wrote at that time. And it was really a new perspective. I don't know whether some of you have already. I hope many of you have read this book. It's interesting. Okay. Mas Kunto apparently experienced the same, and then wrote some books. Yeah? And then, because Mas Kunto passed away, some of my friends contacted me. Yeah? Prof. Heddy from Pharmacy, and Prof. Indra Bastian from Faculty of Economics. Yeah. They asked me further to develop Mas Kunto's thought, which really surprised me, because although I knew Mas Kunto well, I had never discussed the topics he wrote in his books. I knew Mas Kunto more as a historian and a literary figure, rather than as the initiator of prophetic science. I was entirely unaware of Mas Kunto's thoughts on Islam as a science and prophetic social science. So I didn't really know that Mas Kunto wrote this book at that time. Only after I was contacted by some of my friends, and I told them, if you ask me to write more about Mas Kunto's ideas, please give me some of his books. Then I was given some of Mas Kunto's books on these topics. Yeah? Then I tried to develop further his thought. And I could not refuse the request after hearing the story about why I was chosen by my friends to develop Mas Kunto's ideas on Islam and science. And they asked me to write a book on that topic. Okay, lanjut. Yeah, at the time, we then have kind of homework from Mas Kunto, that is to develop further the prophetic paradigm, develop further Islam as a paradigm, develop and complete the prophetic social science. This is the idea of Mas Kunto at that time, and apply the prophetic social science to transform the social, cultural, political, economic system for the people. Because Mas Kunto and his friends, especially from some of you may know, Jamaah Salahuddin. Yeah, that was well-known Jamaah who took care of the students' Muslim activities in Gelanggang at the time. Then they moved to Masjid Kampus, yeah, a new place. Yeah. Then we have now in Masjid Kampus two kinds of activities related to science and Islam. The first is Islamisasi ilmu pengetahuan, Islamization of science, and ilmuisasi Islam, scientification of Islam. This is the idea that was started by Mas Kunto at the time, because Mas Kunto could not agree fully with the word Islamization of science, and I agree with him. So we try to develop the second one, ilmuisasi Islam, or scientification Islam. But we actually in Gajah Mada in Masjid Kampus work together or have activities together, and we know that it really developed, and Mas Arkom is the head of that activities. And then I wrote a book, lanjut Mas. Nah, which title is Paradigma Prophetic Islam, Epistemology, Ethos and Model. So this is the development further of Mas Kunto's thought on Islam as science and Islam as a paradigm. In that book, I had to highlight several aspects that were still lacking in Mas Kunto's thinking, because only in this way could I say that I had developed Mas Kunto's idea that were unfinished. And there I talk about the epistemology, ethos and model within the prophetic paradigm that we were developing. These three elements, as we know, are fundamental components of a paradigm. Of course, they were not enough. Yeah. After establishing the philosophical foundations, what was needed next was methodology. This is where a bigger problem lies, because methodology is strongly determined by the object of the study, formulation of research questions or our hypotheses, and the instruments we use. Methodology also serves as a connection between the object studied and the knowledge gained about that object. On the other hand, we know that the material objects of each discipline differ from one another, and therefore it is impossible to have a single methodology for all prophetic disciplines. For example, prophetic legal studies are different from prophetic economic studies, even though both are classified as prophetic social sciences. Thus, their methods will also differ. Likewise, the methodology of prophetic agricultural science will not be the same as that prophetic medical science, even though both belong to the prophetic natural sciences. A unified methodology is only possible at an abstract level, if not a very abstract one, and therefore it is very likely to become not quite operational for research. To be truly operational, its methodology must be developed by experts in each discipline. This is my view. Yeah. Thus, concerning methodology, I can only present some general points. A lot of questions was given to me about the methodology, and I have said that this is not easy because each discipline has its own methodology. Yeah. We need methodology as a means to obtain knowledge about the world. The question is, what is the nature of the world from the perspective of prophetic science? Or what is the conception of the world in prophetic science? And how that world look like? What is prophetic science? Before answering this question, we need to recall that methodology is one of the elements that differentiates science from knowledge. Science is obtained by applying clear research methods and procedures which can be examined and repeated. Prophetic science, simply put, can be understood as knowledge such as that possessed by the prophets. Why we choose the prophets? Because as believers who believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the universe and everything within it, we believe that God, Allah, has sent one of his servants, a human being, to deliver messages and provide guidance to humankind so that they may thrive in this life and in the hereafter. This chosen person is what we call a prophet. So he is the best person in the world in his time. In prophetic science, we have a model of the world that differs from the model in contemporary science, which can be illustrated as follows. Lanjut. Lanjut. Nah, this is our model of the world, simple model. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we have prophet, and we have human beings, and then we have nature. I don't think we have such model in our discussion in the classroom, in the universities. Usually we have only nature and human being. That's what we have to model. But we don't include prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These two things are outside our discourse in the classroom in university. Such model of the world does not exist in conventional science. The sciences we learn at universities such as UGM are not related to the prophet and God. Our conventional model of the world consists of only human beings and nature. Prophetic knowledge possessed by a prophet is knowledge about the world, both empirical and non-empirical, as well as about humankind. Part of this knowledge is obtained through experience, social life, communication with other human beings. Others are given directly by the God who sent him. What might the prophetic view of the world be like? I attempt to formulate it based on my reading and interpretation of the writings of Sultan Aulia, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Al-Jailani, may God sanctify his secret, in his book Secret of Secrets. Based on his exposition, I distinguish the world or cosmos into 4 realms. Lanjut, Mas. Terus. Oh ya, ini. No. Yeah. So we have 4 realms. First, the sense world or the outward world, alam zahir. The cognized world, the world of words and meanings. The world of God's words, alam kalimat Allah. Not sense, but experience. And the world of non-existence, annihilation, fana. Prophets and chosen individuals may obtain knowledge about all 4 realms, but only knowledge of the first 2 is normally conveyed or can be conveyed to others. Knowledge about the 3rd realm sometimes can be conveyed, while the 4th cannot be conveyed to others, because human language is incapable of containing what is known about that realm. And then we have model about science. With such a model of the world, the prophetic knowledge that we are now conceptualizing consists of laduni ilmu laduni, divinely inspired knowledge. And then Quran based on hadith based science, kitab kuning based science, science and knowledge. Laduni ilm or ilmu laduni, simply defined, refers to information obtained directly, quote unquote, from Allah, the Creator. Science refers to information obtained by applying certain replicable methods and procedures, and knowledge refers to information obtained without following specific replicable methods and procedures. In the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, prophetic knowledge did not yet include categories 2 and 3. Lanjut Mas, mungkin ada. Terus. Mundur sedikit. Satu. Yeah, yes. So we have that knowledge actually. I tried to categorize into 5. You may disagree with the kind of categorization. This is really preliminary categorization. Yeah? And we know that in the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, prophetic knowledge did not yet include categories 2 and 3 because it was still on Prophet Muhammad who had that, who had that knowledge at that time. Those fields emerged only after the Prophet passed away. Each type of knowledge above has its own methodology, except category 5. Here I will elaborate on the methodology of categories 2 and 3, that is Quran-based science and Hadith-based science, as well as Kitab Kuning science. To do this, we begin with one important element in the scientific paradigm, and that is keyword. In the past, keywords did not receive much attention. But today, without knowing the keywords, we would become lost and confused in the vast jungle of science. Keyword is the compass that directs where we are heading in research. Keyword, along with its definition and explanations, is our main guide in doing research. If we as Muslims agree that the Quran is the greatest book on earth and the words within it are the words of Allah, then the Quran contains the most excellent keywords through which we can study the world in far deeper ways than what currently exists. As we know, in ordinary scientific research, keywords always play a very important role. Research can only be carried out if we know and understand the definitions of the key terms and their explanations. Since I've been asked to present the methodology of prophetic science, I will briefly outline here to give an idea what such a methodology might look like. However, it should be noted that what I'm presenting here is a preliminary version. It needs a book to fully explain the methodology I'm talking about here. The methodological steps in building prophetic science are as follows. First, lanjut. Identify and choose the keywords from the Quran or the Hadith, whether they come from a phrase, sentence, verse, stories, discourse, that capture our interest. Once identified, we use the keywords to formulate research questions or formulate hypotheses to be tested. This research question or hypothesis should truly align with our interest so that we can remain motivated throughout the research process. The third stage is to define the keywords and explain the meaning of the definitions, because a definition by itself may not always be clear in meaning, nor automatically operational. Based on the definition and its explanation, the keyword can then be used in the research and become operational. The result of this research is, of course, knowledge about the world, but knowledge that originates from concept derived from the Quran. In this way, we will be able to view the world through our interpretation of Quranic keywords. By doing so, veils that have unknowingly covered our mind's eye may be lifted, allowing us to see the world from a new perspective. This is what we call seeing the world from the Quranic perspective, or more precisely, seeing the world through our interpretation of the Quran's keywords. What is the difference then between this approach and the Quranic exegesis of tafsir as we know today? The difference, in my view, lies in the fact that existing exegesis has not yet applied Quranic keywords to empirical research. I might be wrong in this case because I don't read all of result of research about Quran and Hadith and so forth. So you may correct me in this case. Research that is scientifically rigorous in its method and procedures, aimed at producing new knowledge that can bring benefit to humanity. Of course, to conduct this research of this kind, several requirements must be fulfilled. Yeah. This include, lanjut, this is the picture of the structure of the paradigm, which I named, we have to know about this and we want to develop prophetic paradigm, because without knowing what a paradigm is, I don't think we can develop what we call prophetic paradigm. Lanjut. And yeah, choose keywords. These are the methodological steps. Lanjut. Okay. Lanjut lagi. Nah, requirement. Yeah. That to do this kind of research, we need to know Indonesian, Arabic, and English. Yeah. Because this is the language that we need to use in our research using prophetic paradigm. Yeah. So, and then we have the knowledge of scientific paradigm. That is the picture that I've shown. And scientific methods and procedures, of course, we know already about this. And then knowledge of a particular scientific discipline, we all know this. And knowledge of the state of the art of that discipline, which is not always the case with art. Yeah. So if we want to develop prophetic science at the UGM, then we have to collaborate with colleagues from Western Asia Study, Western Asia program, in the Faculty of Cultural Sciences, for they are the ones who study Arabic and Deaf. Yeah. Other requirements are the same as those, the disciplines that we already have at UGM. This ends my brief and practical presentation of the methodology of prophetic science. I'm sorry for being unable to discuss the more theoretical and philosophical issues as well, and questions that may arise here due to our limited time. Hopefully what I've shared here, a simple illustration of what we mean by prophetic science and methodology, will spark our interest in developing this new field more seriously, formally, institutionally, and systematically at UGM, so that its result will be more visible and its benefits more tangible. Thank you very much for all your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Prof. Heddy, could you sit here? Okay, next we are going to hear the presentations from the second speaker, Dr. Bagus Riyono, M.A. Psikolog. Please welcome Dr. Bagus Riyono. Please, the floor is yours. And his talk is titled Islam as a Science in Psychology. Okay, please welcome Dr. Bagus. Okay, I'm sorry. In terms of the correlations, between Prof. Jasser and Mr. Bagus materials, we please you to take your seat, please, and present your materials. Please welcome Prof. Jasser Auda.
How long do I have?
Around 20 minutes, Professor. Okay. Aman. Tadi Pak Bagus, punten nggih. Panitia menyerahkan saya ronde. Punten. Nggih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum. السلام عليكم. Yes, now it's working. ما شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه مباركا عليه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى وكما ينبغي لجلال وجهه وعظيم سلطانه. والصلاة والسلام على أسعد خلقه وخاتم رسله محمد صلى الله عليه وآله، ورضي الله عن المهاجرين والأنصار ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. I am really honored, dear my brothers and sisters and dignitaries and excellencies, professors, our teachers, and our students. I am really honored to be invited to this event, and I really enjoyed the presentation before, and inshallah I will enjoy the presentation after, as usual. And it is a very important topic on the future of Islamic thought and issues of methodology and science, and how can we think about that from an Islamic point of view. Speaking before Gaza is different from speaking after Gaza. Speaking before the last 2 years on methodology and science and the Ummah and its role in the world is different from speaking now, as things are developing in the world in a way that shows the need of our Ummah and the need of its book and the need of its values and its way of life. As someone who comes to you from the West, I could tell you that as Western citizens, we discovered the major lies that we have been living over the past century, especially 1 century. The lies about the international order and international law and dignity and human rights and international courts and standards and development and the supremacy of Western culture. And I'm not speaking just as a Muslim, also as a Western person, how we discovered that we are members of an empire that we do not want to be part of. I'm speaking on behalf of every decent Western person, but also as a Muslim who lives there and considers myself to be part of that civilization by living, not by origin. The world is in need of Islam, my brothers and sisters, and we cannot help the world out of its crises without going back to the genuine source of Islam, the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sunnah is different from Hadith, by the way, but that's a different topic. The Sunnah of Muhammad, Hadith could be Sahih, Da'if, but Sunnah is the way of Muhammad, the tradition of him that is confirmed. The world needs the Quran and Sunnah for us to have a better future as humanity. The white supremacist Western civilization has been disintegrating over the past few decades. And I know this is a bit of a political introduction, but I think it's important to see the context of the depth of renewal that we need. It has been disintegrating from a Euro-American, Russian, northern kind of civilization that is attacking the Muslim world. Perhaps here in the Far East part of Asia, you had different attacks from your north, but the rest of the Ummah had attacks militarily and, most important, culturally from the north. Eventually, the north has disintegrated. The Russians went to a different place, and they eventually themselves fell, and retreated from many of the Muslim parts, from the former Soviet parts, the Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan, etc. They are still now in Tatarstan and Crimea and so on, but they retreated. And then they split eventually between them and the Euro-American Empire. So the empire became English and French, and of course, building on the inheritance of the Portuguese and the Dutch and the Spanish and the Italians, etc., who invaded North Africa, invaded all the way to here, this part of the world. But then the Euro-American Empire has been disintegrating recently, especially under the corruption of the political systems, and I'm speaking about the West where I come from, and the corruption of the political systems and giving priority of Zionist agendas over their national agendas and converting Western Euro-American civilization into banana republics for the sake of Zionism, and then eventually splitting the European versus the American part of that white supremacy empire, and now it's only an American empire. And recently, and I come from Canada, we're talking about separating within the American empire, California in a different place, and Texas, and the Democrats and the Republicans are becoming two different religions and two different ideologies, and so on. What I'm saying is that the attack on the Muslim Ummah was sometimes directly in military means, and sometimes indirectly using agents, using functional states, like the state that's called Israel these days, sometimes, and some of the Arab governments, and some of the institutions that were used as proxy institutions for white supremacy empire. And sometimes, and most importantly, the attack was cultural, in the sense that the Muslim Ummah is attacked culturally. It is required to change the definition of the world from what Islam is defining it to what secularism is defining it. And therefore, Islam becomes a religion rather than a deen. Deen is a way of life, but Diana, or religion, is a faith, is something in the mosque. And therefore, I really appreciate the presentation before me that has to do with looking at Islam as a science and looking at science as part of Islam, etc. But I would go further by saying that we need to revise the way we disciplinize knowledge and the way we define knowledge, because the way we define knowledge now is contrary to the Quranic worldview. We define knowledge as religious knowledge versus scientific knowledge. The religious knowledge is metaphysics, if you're going to speak Latin, that has to do with the myths of the religions, and according to your faith, and everyone could profess whatever faith in a like Durkheimian world. The truth is self-proclaimed and self-actualized, etc., versus the science that is supposed to be positive and empirical and factual. In Islam, it's actually the other way around. It is Islam that is factual, and the words of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger that are truths in their own right. And science is just a theory. The phenomena is a fact, but to explain the phenomena with science is a theoretical and hypothetical exercise. The fact that throwing this on the ground, the object will fall, that is a fact. But gravity is just a theory. And there are actually 5, 6 theories of gravity, not just one. There is the Newtonian theory that is built on the Bayt al-Hikmah in Baghdad, and Newton had read this in Latin, and he developed equations on top of the Bayt al-Hikmah. And then there is the Einsteinian world, in which this falls because of the space-time gaps. And then there is the quantum physics now. They want to introduce a different theory for gravity, and then gravity is just a theory. And I chose gravity for our students here to revise the most basics of theories, let alone the theory of the stratification of society according to economic stratas, or the theory of development and growth in economy, and so forth, and everything that has to do with these curves of supply and demand, etc., and the theory of human rights, as I mentioned, and dignity and international system, and so forth, let alone also the theories that have to do with medicine and the definition of the human being and defining a psychological disorder. My friend and brother, Dr. Bagus, will talk about that. Just theories that are based on atheist, usually, and sometimes neo-Christian kind of philosophy. Freud was an atheist guy, and if you read his book, you'll be surprised how Freudianism became a paradigm to define psychology, and how the complexes of the child, the boy with his mother and the girl with her father, and how these complexes develop a science and an interpretation of reality, and basing everything that the human being does on sexual desires. This is atheism. This is not how Islam deals with an-nafs, the Quran and the nafs. And Prof will talk about that. It's a very different story from that. Look at how a nation state is defined in political science, and the sovereignty and people and borders and all of that, and the Hobbesian definition, how it developed from something that has to do with minimizing wars and so on, a la the Europeans, the Germans in Westphalia, when they proposed these kinds of ideas for the sake of, well, signing the end of the Roman Empire finally, and dividing Europe in a way so that Europe doesn't continue to fight. How this developed into the Hobbesian beast or dragon that Hobbes talked about, and how this has nothing to do with Islam defining what's called al-hukm, or governance, ad-dawla, or state. It's not about that. And how we ended up taking the worst ideas in the political science, turath or heritage of Machiavelli. Politics is very Machiavellian now, and even post-Machiavellian, into some really strange, clownish kind of behavior. And that is quite problematic when it comes to what Islam calls al-hukm. So what Islam calls an-nafs is a very different science. What Islam calls al-hukm, or governance, very different science. Look at the way we defined architecture. And in Islam, it was something that grows organically with the people. It is something that has writings on the wall, on arts and domes, etc. Different parts of the Muslim civilization developed an art of building buildings, not just mosques, buildings and cities and so forth. And how we are invaded, or we were invaded with French modernism. Le Corbusier said that writing on the wall is savage in French, and domes and minarets are savage and so on. And therefore, you go to the heart of the Muslim world, and it's just glass buildings with air conditioning in the middle of the desert. How this has cut the social system of tribalism, and how it converted the family into an atomic family, living in a 1 or 2 bedroom, as we do in Europe and the West. We are doing now that in the heart of the Muslim land and all over. And how this transformed architecture, how it transformed the societies into modern, postmodern even societies, that disintegrated the family and tribal system for the sake of industries and jobs and so on. Look at the economic value in Islam. What Islam defines as mal is value. Money is a value. Money is not a piece of paper. Now, the piece of paper is even a digital number on the screen, and whenever the Americans want more trillions, they press a button and they create tens of trillions of dollars, and therefore everyone in the world pays, everyone who has a dollar in his pocket pays for the $21 trillion that Obama created by pressing that button, because he wanted to solve his banking problems. And everywhere in the world this is not the Islamic system. In Islamic system, it's called riba, it's called baghs. In Islam, we have a difference between tijara and riba. وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. And riba is trading in money and creating money out of nothing. A dinar for 2 dinars is riba, and 2 dinars out of nothing is also riba. And we are creating this value, and based on how big the state, how big the guns of the state, the value of the currency is going to be. Nobody said that this is Islamic, and to apologize for that within an Islamic system is one way of doing politics, one way of doing education. But the general message of what I'm trying to say today is that we should be post that. We should be post apologism and Islamization and so on, because whether we like it or not, the hegemonic powers are disintegrating, and the hegemonic systems are going to face major crises based on the way the dominant civilization, you can add an S if you wish, to civilizations are behaving these days. Of course, we're seeing the worst in, again, the white supremacist Western civilization, but because of the way they are behaving, they are signing the end of their hegemony. And yes, towards the end of the death of any beast, there is a dance that the beast could do, and there is a violence that the beast could show, but there is a problem in that civilization. So as someone who comes from that part of the world to a Muslim environment here, speaking in a Muslim conference, I would advise my brothers and sisters to go beyond the paradigm that is dominant, to go beyond the economic, political, cultural paradigm, not just in social sciences, but also in hard sciences and applied sciences. Engineering is not free of values and philosophy and religion. AI is not a neutral tool. AI is a machine, is a company or companies that are trying to make profits. They give us the app for free, and they become trillionaires and billionaires because they are selling our information and our data and spying on our locations. And that's why the app is free, but the founder of the app, or Apple now, is in the trillions, because the paradigm, the economic paradigm, is not separate from the scientific paradigm. And the AI tools and the medical tools and the transportation tools, these are not value free. They are based on a hegemony, on an economic system and a political system and a legal system, local and international, that we have to be aware of its problems from the Islamic perspective. And we have to take a bolder approach in order to change the world towards the better. The world needs Islam, and many Muslims prefer to die with the dying empire, and that's up to them. But speaking to sincere Muslims and speaking with people who are sincerely believers in the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need to take a bolder approach to the revision of science, the revision of disciplines, the division of natural, applied, social sciences and humanities is secular by definition. And if you want to take an Islamic approach, you need to revise that. In humble books of mine, I proposed that we start to disciplinize education based on phenomena rather than disciplines. Because if you study poverty versus the 1%, that is a very different study from studying economics. Poverty versus the 1% is real science from the Islamic point of view, because you will look at the dimensions, the economic dimensions, yes, but you will look at the legal dimensions of the phenomena of poverty, the cultural dimensions, the political dimensions. You will look at the environmental dimensions. Poverty is linked to the environment. It's not just a phenomena that is because of lack of growth or unemployment. This is very, very shallow and very, very occupied by a paradigm that's not the Islamic paradigm. If we look at poverty versus the 1% versus economics, then we are going to be able to produce Islamic economics that is not apologetic for the capitalist system and its crimes. If we look at sickness or illness as a phenomena, not necessarily through medical sciences, even though medical sciences are part of it, but how do you define health in a comprehensive way, in an Islamic way? How do you define illness in an Islamic way? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first صفحة page in Surah Al-Baqarah, He mentioned في قلوبهم مرض. They have a sickness in their heart. This is not the muscle of the heart. This is the layers of the qalb that are different from the muscles. We need to define sickness in a comprehensive way, not just the muscles and the bones and the chemistry and the genetics. This is a very narrow definition of medicine. But medicine is al-jasad, yes, but there is a layer of al-nafs and ruh and al-qalb and al-wa'i, and there are many concepts in the Quran that define the human being in a different way, and therefore defines health versus malignancy or illness in a very different way. When we look at phenomena in the world of tyranny or despotism versus justice and fairness, we are not just looking at political science, because political science is not really concerned about the question of justice and fairness, it is at the core how to maintain power and how to maintain stability. The objectives of the science is different from what it is in Islam. And therefore, if we look at the phenomena of tyranny versus the phenomena of fairness and justice movements, then we are dealing with a very different political science. This is what time would allow for me to share some ideas. I had a long list of slides and so on, and a book even to show you, but inshallah I will leave the book for those who are interested to read in a PDF with the organizers and the slides as well. This is the gist of my contribution, humble contribution in this. Jazakallah khair once again. Really appreciate your invitation, and I hope that these ideas are useful somehow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to hear a presentation from Dr. Bagus. Time is yours.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah la hawla wa la quwata illa billah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah, asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma sholli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi asma'in wa ba'du. First of all, I would like to inform you that actually I am the pupil of Prof. Jasser, so that's why I don't want to speak first. And what I'm going to present actually is just part of the application of the method, what is called as Maqasid methodology, to psychology. So it's focused on psychology. Can put the slide on? Yeah, okay. So first of all, before I present my ideas here, I would like to say that what I'm doing here, I'm trying to integrate the Islamic paradigm from the Quranic messages into the science of psychology. So that's why maybe it's not, it's not perfect, because I still use some, term from the psychological science, but I'm starting with the paradigm from the Islamic, from the Quranic messages. So how can we do that? So next slide, please. So how to start? Well, actually, from Prof. Jasser Auda's book, there's a framework, yeah, steps, yeah, there's steps in doing the Masjid method. But I'm trying to make it simple, so it's convenient for me to explain in this seminar. Next slide. So we have three things when we try to develop any discipline or knowledge about any discipline. First is the purpose. We have to have the purpose. Why should we learn about psychology, for example? But then we also have to define the object of study of psychology. So that's the keyword. Maybe refer to Prof. Heddy Ahimsa. These are the keywords that we should keep in mind when we're trying to construct the science of psychology from the Islamic perspective. And the third is the method. The method here has multi-layers, yeah. But I'm trying to what I mean by the method here is the method to achieve the purpose. Okay, so this is I try to make it simple here. Okay, now we start with the object of study. Next slide. As we know, psychology consists of two words, psyche and logos. Yeah, so that's why we have to look at the core, because currently the definition of psychology, the object of study of psychology, is changing over time. Yeah, you say you hear some people say psychology is the science of behavior. Somebody say the psychology of the science of the brain and so forth. But actually, if we go back to the basic, actually psyche has a certain meaning. So we have to look at the dictionary. Yeah. Next slide. So not showing. Okay. So psychology, maybe next slide. Consists of psyche and logos. Yeah? Psyche, the meaning of psyche, if you look at the dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary, it said that psyche actually is the soul. Yeah? The soul, the human soul, the mind, the personality, the intellect, and so forth. So psyche actually is the core, the keyword, the core concept in psychology that currently is forgotten by the discipline of psychology. They are not doing study about psyche anymore, because now they are shifting into studying the brain, which is that's not the soul, it's the physics, yeah, the physical part of human being. But some scholars, actually a neurosurgeon and neuroscientists who study the brain, and they have, they believe in God, those neuroscientists that believe in God, actually they already found evidence that the brain actually is not the agency of the personality. It's not the one who make decision. So that's why the newest development of neuroscience and neurosurgeons also confirm that actually there's something that controls the brain, which is immaterial. It's not seen. Okay, so that's why if we look at the Quranic word, the Arabic word from the Quran, the similar meaning, or the one that has meaning similar to psyche, actually is the nafs. Yeah, next slide. So the nafs is also about the soul. Yeah, the nafs is the individual, and the nafs is the essence of the human being, and so forth. So that's why we start from the word nafs as the fundamental concept, as the object of study of psychology. So starting from this concept of nafs, then we can explore the Quran and to find some clues, some evidence, some guidance, yeah, on how should we develop the science of the nafs, or the ilmu nafs. Next slide. Okay, so this is one part. I mean, like, this is the result of the study about the nafs. When we are collecting some message of the Quran. For example, Surah An-Nahl, the verse number 78, it says about that Allah give us hearing, sight, and Ida, fu'at, the heart, and the heart. So based on this, and then we look at the process of the creation of the Prophet Adam, which is called as the first nafs. So Allah created human being from one nafs, which is the Prophet Adam. So it means that if we learn about the process of the creation of the Prophet Adam, then we will learn about the essence of the nafs. And based on the study, we can construct layers of the nafs, yeah, which consists of sensing, the ability to sense, sense the surrounding, to hear, to see, and so forth. And then the reasoning. The reasoning is the cognitive part. And the reasoning actually is not only understanding what is seen or heard, but something beyond that, something that is immaterial. Yeah, it's not material, but you know, it's a knowledge, basic of knowledge. And then actually, from the creation of the Prophet Adam, there's a message about morality. So when the Prophet Adam was introduced to the Malaikat and Iblis, yeah, the angel and the devil, actually it's an introduction of morality, that there's a good things and a bad thing, good and bad. So this morality, if we explore more with understanding the discipline of social science and psychology and so forth, then we can identify two layers of morality. First is the social morality. The social morality means how we tolerate other people, how we respect other people, and so forth. And that is energized, or the source of energy for this social life is empathy. In psychology, we call it empathy. To empathy, this ability to interact with others in a good way. But if we refer to the Surah Al-Hujurat, the verse number 13, yeah, it is mentioned that actually beyond this tolerance, beyond this empathy, like we should learn from each other if we have different, there's one more important thing, which is taqwa. Taqwa is the one who defines us as an individual. So taqwa actually is also a morality, but it's a divine morality. It's not social morality. So that's why I name it as conscience. So conscience is the deepest part of your heart who connect to Allah. Yeah, connect to Allah, connect to the truth, the real truth. So these four layers of human nafs is the source of our energy, is our potential to that make us do something. So this create behavior. The behavior is not coming out of emptiness, but it's the reflection of this dynamics of the human nafs. So behavior can caused by sensing, reasoning, empathy, or conscience. And when we already show, do whatever we do, then we will face the test of life. That's why sometimes we make mistake, and sometimes we do the good thing and the bad thing. So we will go back again to contemplate that through these four layers of our consciousness. You can call this our consciousness, in the sensing layers, the reasoning, empathy, and conscience, to understand whether our what we do is good or bad. If we understand that, if we know, if we realize that what we do is, what we did is a bad thing, then there's a tawbah. So that's why life actually is cyclical. We do mistake, we do tawbah, and so forth. Okay. Next slide. Actually, this concept has, can be elaborated more if we incorporate other message, other ayat in the Quran, and it will create the kind of the dynamics of the nafs, or we can call it, next slide, the psychodynamics. So we know the psychodynamics in psychology, but this is psychodynamics redefined from the Quranic verses, messages. And here we interact with Satan, with Malaikat, and then in front of us there are two paths, which is the path of taqwa. No, I mean, it's not seen here. Actually, there's taqwa and fujur, yeah? There are two paths, fujur and taqwa, that we should choose. And if we want to choose the taqwa, path, we should do tazkiyah. So tazkiyah is the discipline that we should do in order to be, in the right path, to go to Allah, to return to Allah. But within ourselves, because we have freedom, then there's also what is a negative energy that is called hawa. So hawa is a negative energy that can pull us down, yeah? And it is also already reminded in the Quran, first Surah An-Nazi'at, yeah? Wa amma man khafa maqama rabbihi wa nahan nafsa anil hawa. So those who can protect their nafs from hawa. So hawa is a negative energy that is the excess of freedom. So that's why you can see in our world nowadays, there's a lot of people who shout for freedom, but actually they are driven by hawa. So that's why we have to be careful about this freedom term. Okay, next slide. So that was the object of study, the nafs. And then the purpose, what is the purpose of the nafs? Next slide. And next, the purpose of the nafs actually is to become a nafsul mutmainah. So because this nafsul mutmainah is the end of the journey. When we achieve nafsul mutmainah, then we will be invited to heaven, and we'll be eligible and entitled as the Abdullah, yeah? So that's why nafsul mutmainah actually is the purpose of the nafs, the destination, the one that we should aim at, or for. Next slide. So the word here is mutmainah. Mutmainah means peaceful. And from this term, we can also develop the theory about healthy heart or healthy human psyche, yeah? Next slide. So the healthy heart, the core of the healthy heart is a peaceful heart. So mutmainah is a peaceful heart. And in order to be peaceful, there's another 6 qualities that we should develop in ourselves. We have to be solid. We have to have solid heart, a full heart, no emptiness in our heart. We have to be a coherent heart, not munafik. Yeah? Munafik is not coherent. And also balanced heart, a resilient heart, and ever-growing heart. So this is a theory that was developed from the concept of mutmainah and integrated with many others messages, so that we can apply this in our life, in a psychological science. And we can, and I already developed the measurement for this, is to indicate the level of your heart, yeah? Next. So then the third part is the method. Next, please. So the method here, as we refer to the framework of the psychodynamics, we can see that the method here is tazkiyah. Next slide. And this refers to Surah As-Sams, yeah, verse number 9. Qad aflaha man zakaha. So the one who will be successful is the one who to do tazkiyah to themselves. So tazkiyah is the keyword for the intervention, for the effort that you should do in order to get to the nafsul mutmainah. And nafsul mutmainah is the healthy heart, yeah, mental health actually has nafsul mutmainah. Next slide. So tazkiyah have three meanings, yeah, based on the study of the Quranic, the Maqasid study, yeah. Next slide. It's to purify, to nourish, and also to grow. So what should we purify? So if we apply this to psychology, now we know that there's something wrong in our heart. That's why we need to purify our heart. And if we refer to the hadith of Rasulullah, he said that there's if you do something bad or something wrong, there will be some dot in your heart. And if the more you do wrongs, then your heart will be covered with this, dots that your heart will not be clean. Yeah. So this is why we translate it into psychology as the mental problem. So what should we do to purify our heart? What kind of things that we should purify from our heart? Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Based on the work of Al-Balkhi, he already defined there are 4 basic mental problems, which is anxiety, depression, anger, and obsession. And actually, this is also recognized in the psychological manual, yeah, the DSM. So meaning that this is confirmed. Yeah, I mean this is developed from the Quranic messages and confirmed with the scientific study. So this is why this is a basic understanding about our mental illness. Next slide. And then we should grow our heart. What should we grow in our heart? First is knowledge, and then wisdom, and harmony, and happiness. So this relates to the positive psychology. Yeah, knowledge is very important. Yeah, in any every ulama suggests that knowledge is a very important thing to develop. That's why seeking knowledge for Muslim is not optional. We have to do that. Every Muslim has to seek knowledge, because knowledge is the one who can grow your heart. And it's also mentioned in the Quran that those who have iman and ilm, yeah, Allah will elevate them to make them a more qualified person, individual. Yeah. Okay, so this is the basic, the fundamental. And next slide, as the conclusion. Actually, to do this, I've already developed 7 framework in doing tazkiyah, and it's already published in a book called Tazkiyah Therapy. Yeah, and this is just an effort how to construct psychology from the Islamic perspective, but also integrate the knowledge that we already learned from the psychological discipline. Inshallah, if we can do this, we can redefine psychology, inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Bagus. You already give us fruitful and insightful materials. Yeah. Now, before we enter the Q&A sessions, let me summarize, yeah, the 3 speakers' points. The first, Prof. Heddy Shri Ahimsa mentioned that Islam should be positioned as a paradigm, but without good or robust understanding on how paradigm is, what paradigm is, we can't build or develop the clear path on the paradigm itself. And he borrowed a lot of things from Kuntawijaya's notions, yeah, that Islam should be posited as sciences and Islam as a paradigm. And I think this is not finished work from Kuntawijaya. We should continue the legacy from Kuntawijaya itself. And from Professor Jasser Auda, there is a fundamental error in defining knowledge. as you mentioned, and also your objections, Professor Jasser, that we tend, or society of Islam, for example, tend to distinguish the knowledge that belongs to Islam and belongs to science and so on. And I think this is the short question for you. How can we overcome the conflictual circumstances that we face when we encounter scientific claim and we connect it to the metaphysical claim? I think it is in terms of the very, very different ontological stance between science and religions. We know that, okay, we can make it conflict between naturalistic point of view and the monism and also the spiritualism point of view. Thank you. And the last from Dr. Bagus. He already mentions that the object of psychology has been changing tremendously. Yeah, we have to reconsider or rethink on how we position the objects of the study in psychology discipline. I think we need to involve the vast kind of objects, including the accessible one and also the inaccessible ones, from the spirituality and also from the physicality and materiality itself. Thank you very much. And now we enter the Q&A sessions. We have around 1 hour until we finish this conference. So if you have a questions, please raise your hands, but please don't forget to mention whom your answer is addressed to. Maybe for Prof. Jasser, Prof. Bagus, and also Prof. Heddy. Okay, I will open 2 rounds, 3 questioners for each round. Okay, first, you and you. Okay, please introduce yourself first.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you to all speakers for delivering such insightful presentation. I'm Muhammad Yusuf from the Masjid Kampus Management. I didn't anticipate that this weekend's discussion during the weekend would be both challenging and enriching. For me, it's quite really. I'm happy to be here to learn from all of you. But I would like to pose some questions to our distinguished speakers. The first one is for Prof. Heddy. You mentioned that each discipline has distinct methods for approaching a subject, and with only abstract shared methods at higher level. Could you elaborate further on the likely shared methods you mentioned in developing a prophetic science? Yeah. And for Prof. Jasser, you discussed the relationship between religious knowledge and scientific knowledge, noting that scientific knowledge encompasses various paradigms to understand facts, while the facts themselves remain independent. I would like to understand further about religious knowledge you mentioned many times. How do you define religious knowledge in terms that, because we understand that religious knowledge is very dependent upon who interpret the religious teachings. How do you incorporate the role of mufassir, the religious interpreters, into your definition of religious knowledge, considering again that each mufassir has his or her own different knowledge background? And for Prof. Bagus, can you explain further about the methods for understanding the nafs? Because you mentioned quite a lot for me, but I really want to understand in more detail about the methodology you propose for understanding the nafs, and to what extent the externalities create and influence the nafs in creating one's own behavior. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, start from Prof. Heddy first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me, Mas Yusuf. Could you repeat your question? Is it about the... Yeah? Yang on off ini ya. Ditekan itu Mas ya. Nah. Oh enggak on ya. Oh. Powernya enggak nyala. Ya bisa itu Mas.
Okay, because you mentioned that each discipline has its own methods in understanding the phenomenon, in understanding something. But you also mentioned that there is likely shared methods in the abstract level. We may call it the shared method, the method that can be applied in all disciplines, but that is only at the level of abstract. We may call it the prophetic methods or whatever. Then I would like to understand further about what is the shared method you mentioned that can be applied for all the disciplines. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, actually, if we go deeper to each discipline, I think we know that, for instance, my field is anthropology. Yeah, how to do research in anthropology is rather different from doing research in economics and in psychology. Yeah, so what we need then is more on an abstract level, and that is actually what I told you actually is not quite abstract. Pak Bagus has already showed us. Actually, this is what I meant. You take keyword. Yeah, that's actually not abstract, but how you operationalize, yeah, how you define, and then you use what kind of instruments, and that is different. So you can mention only you use the instrument, you use interview, but how you do interview, then it's different from psychology and anthropology. So that is what I mean by abstract. Yeah, it's only on the level of a very general one. Yeah, but Pak Bagus already showed us how we can apply that in psychology. Well, in anthropology, I think I'll do different things. Yeah, not like that, but still, the methodology is more or less the same. Yeah, we have keywords and the definitions and explanations, and that is actually what I can tell you. But how we define, explain, and so on, it's more operational. Yeah. And actually, for social science, because if we want to, in this case, we want to transform society, we need to distinguish two kinds of methodology. First is method of research, and then method of application, the result of research. And that is more on applied aspect of that science. So actually, we need two kinds of methodology. Not only one methodology, but for each discipline, we need to have that kind. We do research in, for instance, medical science. It's different from practicing the medical science, applying knowledge in medical science. So that kind of knowledge, actually, we need to have that. Yeah. So we have two kind of methodology. What I told you actually is just very general. Yeah, and then that's more research rather than for application. But we need to discuss this further in other occasion. Thank you very much, Mas Yusuf, for the question.
Next, the question for Prof. Jasser.
Jazakallah khair. I have actually two questions from our moderator, Dr. Rodinal, about the conflict, how to overcome the conflictual events between the metaphysics of the religion and science. I would answer briefly with, inshallah, as much as I can. Once we label religion knowledge or religious knowledge metaphysics, we shifted to a different paradigm because the Islamic paradigm does not have physics and metaphysics. The Islamic paradigm has shahada and ghaib. Shahada is what we see, and ghaib is the unseen, but both are physics. Angels are physics in Islam, and jinn are physics, but we don't see them. So how to then bridge the gap between scientific knowledge and religious knowledge when they contradict? Actually, this contradiction is not true. The true understanding of religious knowledge never contradicts with science. If the science is true, and if there is a contradiction, there is one of two possibilities. Either the science is wrong, or the religious interpretation is wrong. So if the religious interpretation is wrong, which is the question of our dear doctor, that there is a difference between the truthful interpretation and the dhanni or guessed or probable interpretation. Interpretation is not black and white. There is a spectrum of possibilities. There are truths that are religious truths that nobody should come and dispute. The fact that Adam alayhi salam had a language, nobody should come and tell us that he had a pseudo language or a monkey language, because if we're talking anthropology, that is not really the history of language as we know it. The fact that we had prophets everywhere, nobody should come and tell us that the Iraqis invented monotheism or the Egyptians, or no, because monotheism is from Adam. This is a truth. But sometimes there is an interpretation that is probable, and then science would push us to fine-tune our interpretation. It's like people when they interpreted that the earth is flat. The Quran is not saying that the earth is flat, but their science at that time said that the earth is flat. And then science started to say, oh, the earth is round. And you go back to the Quran and you have a better interpretation. So not every interpretation is correct, but some interpretations are facts and are not just the mufassir's illusions, but some of the tafsir is truth. It is not the Quran exactly, it's the tafsir, but it's truth. And some of the tafsir requires revision. Similarly, with science, some of the science is truth, but some of the science requires revision. And if you deal with science with a critical eye, you realize that most science requires revision, because every theory that was true 200-300 years ago is not true now. Almost every scientific, I'm talking physics and astronomy and medicine, let alone psychology and sociology and political science. 300 years ago, these social sciences were very different from today. So science is theories, is suggestions, and I'm speaking as a scientist, as I have a PhD in science. So as a scientist, I say that science at the end is suggestions for explaining phenomena and not necessarily truth, including natural sciences, let alone social sciences and these kinds of things that are just simply theories. The theory of the markets, the theory of the state, these are theories, and maybe 100 years from now, a state will be defined differently and markets will be defined differently, and so forth, because 100 years ago, they were defined differently. So, yes, there is a difference between the tafsir and the mufassir, but sometimes that difference is if the mufassir reaches the truth. How do we define truth? That is not something that we have a criteria for. This is something that we all agree on. There is an ijma', if you wish, or a consensus of every scientist on a theory. It becomes a fact, probably. And the consensus of every faqih on a hukum or a rule, it becomes a fact too. But maybe some of the fuqaha eventually will say, oh no, that rule is not in every place. Maybe if you go to the North Pole, as we live in Canada, Ramadan sunrise and sunset is not like that. The sun goes around for 6 months. I am going to break my fast after 6 months? No, I mean, I will start to have a different fiqh for the sunrise and sunset, matala. I'm part of the Fiqh Council of America, ISNA Council. So we have these dilemmas. I'm really revising some fiqhi facts. People think they're facts, but they're not. In the North, there's no sunrise and sunset. So similarly, in science, sometimes we have differences. And inshallah, as we develop our knowledge from the Islamic point of view, I'm very happy to, inshallah, be on the same panel with our two good professors. Prof. Heddy gave us an example of developing an Islamic philosophy outside the dominant paradigm. And Prof. Bagus gave us an example of developing Islamic psychology outside the dominant paradigm. This psychology is not Freudian, and this philosophy is not Aristotelian or any of that, Hegelian or any of that. So we, alhamdulillah, as an ummah, we are developing our sciences, and inshallah, the future will be, inshallah, better, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Okay, I'm gonna share how we can come up with this concept and construct. First of all, from the word nafs, then we collect all the verses, as much as possible, because the word nafs mentioned in 270 ayat, so I haven't really studied all of them, but at least we try to understand how the Quran explained about the nafs. First, Allah mentioned that Allah created human being from one nafs, nafs wahiyat, meaning that nafs actually is one individual. One individual is also one nafs. And then Allah mentioned about nafs as the soul. Yeah, the soul is also, so the individual, the essence of the individual is the soul, not the body. Okay, so we have to learn to study, to try to understand the message of the Quran based on the word nafs. And then what is the highest state of the nafs? It's nafsul mutmainah, because this is the end of the day, the end of the, the akhirat. Yeah, then nafsul mutmainah is the condition, the state of the nafs, that is the ultimate state of the nafs, which entitled to go heaven and also accepted as the Abdullah, yeah, hamba Allah. Yeah. So this is why by studying, trying to contemplate, and trying to understand the message about all the verse of the Quran that talking about the nafs, then we can construct a theory about the nafs. And also lately, when I think about it, actually the term kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, that sometimes people you interpret this as everybody will die, but actually that's not quite right, because maut actually is not the end of everything. It's in the Surah Tabarok, Al-Mulk. It said that maut is part of the test, So that's why when we say kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, maybe the message here is everybody, every individual will experience death. So death is not the end of everything. So this, by understanding the message and try to connecting to each other the messages, then we can understand more about the meaning or the message from these verses. And by doing that, inshallah, we can develop the knowledge about the nafs. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the second questioners.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Siti Mutiah from Political Science. faculty of Social and Political Science. That's why I've been waiting for the elaboration of Islamic thought from the perspective of politics. Thank you so much for your speaking or your presentation. That all of the speaker gave me some incitement and also broadened my mind. But because I'm coming from political science, so I'm waiting for the political perspective. As far as I'm concerned, that the future of Islamic thought much depends on the Islamic political thought. You know that Islam offers political thoughts. That's why our founding fathers, firstly, introduced the political terms coming from Islam. You know, the name of our parliament, or parliament is Dewan Perwakilan Rakyat. The three terms are Arabic, right? And also Majelis Permusyawaratan Rakyat, and so on and so on. Even democracy, that we have ideology called Pancasila. So based on the ideology that we believe in one God. Actually, Indonesia, we have a lot of religion, but the government only acknowledge 6 of them. And you know, we follow some Islamic thought when we built this country. And I'm sure that Islam offer political thought, how to govern the people, how to govern the people locally, I mean nationally, or globally. So Islam is a solution, I think, because Islam also offers democracy, justice, equality, and so on and so forth. So if you give me chance to you know, elaborate the political thoughts. So this prophetic method should be started from the idea of political thoughts. For example, you have to follow, for example, Fazlur Rahman, how to build the Islamic State, or Rashid Ridho, or Hasan al-Banna, and from our countries, Muhammad Nasir, Muhammad Hamka. We have a lot of Islamic Islamic political scientists. So it would be better for the prophetic thought that we elaborate the thinking of Islam from the political sides. Yes, I strongly believe, because that the world can be better when we implement Islamic thought. And you know, without politics, it is very difficult for you to implement all of the Islamic thought. For example, yes, Pak Bagus, you have an idea how to make people become taqwa according to Islam, but without authority, we cannot implement the idea of Islam, right? So politics is very important. For example, our government, you know, every Friday, the government give chance to every Indonesian people to do Friday prayers. That means this is about authority, right? Because of the authority, so the Islamic thought can be implemented quite well. I just would like to have your response about this. Thank you so much for the 3 speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. The elaboration between the politics and knowledge. Okay, who comes first? Prof. Heddy?
No. Jazakallah khair. I agree with you, Sister Doctora. I totally agree. I think there is a difference between applying Islam and imposing Islam. Islam is not supposed to be imposed on others. La ikraha fi din. We have in the Quran, we cannot impose on others to become Muslim or to do what Muslims do. But there is always a system in a polity, whatever the polity is, that comes from a religious perspective, that the majority imposes on the minorities. I am a Canadian. I live in Canada. There are things in the law that come from Christianity and particular branches of Christianity. For example, cousins cannot marry legally in Canada from a branch of Protestantism. In Islam, you could marry your cousin, but in Canada, this is not allowed. The culture developed and then the law developed not to allow that. As a Muslim, okay, I cannot marry my cousin. We cannot, I don't know, have polygamy in Canada, legally speaking. There are things, as a minority, I'm living my religion, but the general system, because we are a small minority, we go by the general system. So the same thing with Islam. There is a general system of Islam, and therefore there are things that we consider crimes. Zina, Allah forbid, or riba, or, we consider riba a crime. We could say, well, no more riba. And you are a Christian, you can do riba, or you're a Jew, but no, we don't allow riba in this country. And Islam is for the best of humanity, not just Muslims, for the best of everyone. But we need to differentiate between the things that are ibadah and the things that are mu'amala. And it's complex sometimes. Ibadat are for Muslims. We pray on Friday and we pray Eid and we, marry a particular way. Others could have parallel laws and parallel way of life, as long as they don't compromise the public order, as long as they don't destroy the public order. Yes, you could drink, but you're not supposed to be drunk in the street, for example. That's in the Sharia. Minorities could drink. You're not going to, but they are not supposed to be drunk in the street, because the street is a public order. Allah forbid they could have a sinful relationship, but if they are seen by 4 people, then they are lashed, or the Sharia applies, because private life could have the religious dimension of religious minorities, and we should protect that, protect our churches or synagogues or temples, but the public order has to be Islamic. And being in a modern state does not mean to be in a Christian state or a secular state. Modern state could be Islamic too. And Jazakallah khair, you mentioned quite a number of names of Muslim intellectuals who tried to develop theories of Dawla al-Islamiyya, a civil state. I have a humble book that's called the Dawla al-Madaniyya, or civil state. And that book, published maybe 15 years ago, that book is proposing ideas on the relationship between state and religion. Allahu A'lam. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you, Mudia, for the questions. The problem is that it seems that something is already clear, building for political systems, something like that. But in my view, no. We don't really have clear idea how is Islamic political system, Islamic ideology. I don't think we really have that. And we know that even in our religion, we have 4 mazhab, Shafi'i, Hanbali, Hanafi, and of course in political thoughts, there might be more if we try to analyze further. That's first. So in my view, we still have to formulate if we want to what we mean by something like Islamic ideology or Islamic political system, something like that. But before that, I think we need to do research, and that's actually our problem. We don't have really good research on political systems in Islam, I think. Using, for instance, keywords in Quran. We can start actually from what is musyawarah? What is the definition of that? And how many meanings to that? And not only from our interpretation, because actually many ulamas has already have definitions about that word, I think. Yeah? So we need to also to read their books. That's why I said in my presentation, we need kitab kuning actually, because they already might be, there might be some ideas already there about the political systems, so we don't know. So we need to study that. We cannot say that, oh, it's Quran, Hadith, and then we are the first interpreter of Quran, we are the first interpreter of Hadith. No, there are already a lot of interpretations, a lot of Hadith, a lot of Muslim scholars, and they have their own ideas. And actually that's what we need to study that critically, and whether we can develop further. And that is actually for political system, I'm sorry to say, that's your task. That's your job, Mbak Mutia. Because we are not political scientists. You know that. I'm anthropologist and you're psychologist. So I think if we need political science, well, then that's your job to do that. And Mas Praja, sociologist, and Mas Arkom, philosophers. I think if we agree that, then we try to develop, and then we'll have a lot of prophetic views about many kinds of things at Gajah Mada UGM. Okay, thank you very much for the question, Mbak Anut.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I don't agree.
Yes, you may add.
If I may add,
Okay. I
just
don't
adding.
Okay, yes.
Please. Adding to Prof. Heddy, Jazakallah khair, about Shura and so on, I refer you to a very thick book of 2 volumes written by Dr. Tawfiq Al-Shawi from Egypt. It's called Fiqhu Ashura wal Istishara. An attempt, he was an ustad of ours, he died, rahimahullah, recently, and he had an approach trying to think about Shura, but he needed like 800 pages on Shura and the current state. How can we do Shura in a current state? There is also another key word, very important, Al-Ummah. Al-Ummah. We are nation states, but we are also an Ummah. And non-Muslims act as a Ummah. Europeans are nation states, but there is the European Ummah. They are not going to allow a city in Europe to die of hunger, for example. But we allow cities in Muslim Ummah to die of hunger. And that is not Ummah. The European Ummah is defending Ukraine now. The Muslim Ummah should defend Palestine. So Ummah is also a very important political concept that a number of scholars wrote about, and that could develop political science, not in contradiction with the nation state. It is there, it's a fact, but the nation state should be part of an Ummah, not just selfish in its own right. Because originally nation state is a very selfish idea, and it would be better to integrate that nation state in a bigger ummah. Allahu a'lam. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, just a little bit comment about this. I don't agree with Ahimsa, Prof. Ahimsa, about the political thoughts or political Islamic political thought or Islamic political studies. Because I teach Islamic political movement of the Middle East, so they have a lot of things about the politics. Actually, about Ummah, for example, Ummah actually, as far as I'm concerned, Ummah is a Islamic community. This is created by our Prophet Muhammad, and to introduce, to make the differences between Islamic community and the other community. And the non-Islamic community, we call it Dhimmi. Dhimmi, that means we have to respect Dhimmi. This is the idea of Madinah state. This is just for example. And then, yes, Islam also teach about democracy, but not through voting. Voting is a kind of democracy, but we have to discuss. This is called musawarah, is discussion. Before we decide something, we have to discuss first with all of the people, and then when you choose the leader, you may choose the right leader, not at the moment, for example, in our government, that we are governed with a child or something like that. If we discuss before, so this won't happen. Yes, Prof. That our Vice President actually is very young and violates our constitution, and then suddenly the previous president changed our constitution, and then you know, this vice president is the son of the previous president. This is not fair. So Islam gave us a lot of ideas about politics that we have to discuss. This is musawarah. So for musawarah, the result is not instant, like a voting, but yes, we have to be patient. Patient is a kind of psychological approach that we have to accept, yes, something, maybe we don't like it. So a lot of things, Prof. Ahimsa, that Islam gave us idea in politics. Yes, surely. A lot of books talking about Islamic politics, and this is a solution. I think we are struggling how to follow Islamic thought through politics. Yeah? We are struggling. Yes, our word is not fine at the moment, but Islam is like a solution. We have to give contribution to the world. That's why the global governance will be better than ever. Yeah, but through Islamic political thoughts, yeah, or political Islamic political ideas. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, Prof. Heddy, I give you, okay, all clear. Okay.
Later on we can discuss.
Yes. Next, we go to the second round. I open two questioners. First, Mas Praja, and the second one, you over there. Okay. Okay, third, yeah, I open for you also. Okay. Okay, start from Mas Praja.
Thank you very much for the time. I think very interesting for discussion today. There are three speakers that give insight ideas. And of course, first, Professor Auda, I want to ask maybe and confirm some problem from you, because in my mind, I firstly imagine that you will be here and you will give some ideas, some new ideas in my mind. I agree with Professor Heddy Ahimsa that we still need something like paradigms, something like big ideas, because this come from now. If we aware, we still in condition of colonization. There are many kind of colonization, as you mentioned. You try to explain how Western country and try to occupy Gaza, for example. It is a matter of colonization. And we know that colonization not only in politics, but in many aspects. And I think our task as a teacher here, as a lecturer, is try to fight with ideas, with cultural ideas who try to undermine the ideas of colonization. That's why I wait from you, maybe you develop new kind of paradigms. Because, for example, you say that now you live in Canada, right? You live in Canada and you try to explain your experience, daily experience, how Muslim community live there with specific rule, and it is different with general rule in Canada. And I think maybe you try to justify how the Muslim can live better there. Yeah, it is kind of, in my mind, it is a kind of idea how Muslim community can live there. But in my mind, there are so many Muslim forced to be go to the Western country because of they try to colonialize our regions. So, in my mind, maybe you can give your I don't know how you do that as a lecturer in Canada. Try to develop paradigms or maybe scientific methods, specific method. Try to maybe to confront the colonialism in culture. Yeah, for example, I ever remember what what Roy Bhaskar say. He tried to define or maybe to remind us about how it is very important for us to differentiate between, for example, epistemology and ontology. Because as you mentioned, there are so many theory derived from epistemology try to undermine, try to colonialize our maybe our belief, maybe our convince, yeah, and so many. And so, as you mentioned, theory is part of epistemology. But the other thing is, it is very important for us to, as you mentioned, about the ontology aspect. It is about the exist and unexist. Yeah, how it is very important to try to sometime maybe to clarify for our student how it is very important to understand between the differentiate between ontology and epistemology, because there are so many theory in social science, like Professor Heddy said and Dr. Bagus said. There are so many theory. For example, in sociology, we teach how politics, for example, determines culture, and vice versa, how culture determine, for example, politics. And there are so many kind of theory. So,
sorry, Mas Praja, sorry for interrupting you.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you make it shorter?
So maybe you have specific paradigms that I need to heard from you. Thank you. Maybe just one question.
Okay, thank you, Mas Praja. Next, we go to you and two guys from there. Yeah, so we can answer all the questions at once. Okay, introduce your name first.
Bismillah. My name is Akram Zayan. Firstly, I would like to thank the distinguished speakers, who has provided us with a very insightful conversation this weekend. Professor Jasser explained to us that there are fundamental differences between conventional sciences as we know it, Western sciences, so to speak, and those implemented by Islamic values, such as in the field of medicine, in sciences, and so on and so forth. But specifically regarding some social sciences like politics and economics, they are very, how do you say, like cross-entangled, so to speak. Like, obviously, Western politics, there are fundamental issues regarding Western politics, like, as previously mentioned, Machiavellian values, and in economics, you know, there's uncontrolled capitalism and all its evils. But what I'm trying to say is this, like, changes in politics require great change in economic, and changes in economics require great change in politics. They're like intertwined and very cross-entangled, which of course then poses some difficulties regarding its implementation in the real world, so to speak, because changes in one sector requires also great reforms in other sectors. I would like if Professor Jasser could go ahead and explain further how that might be implemented in the real world. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Check. Thanks for the given time. My name is Nandung Halsabila Zuhal, and I think my question will be addressed to Professor Heddy ultimately, but I think it could be addressed to Prof. Jasser. So what I want to ask is, I have read Islam Sebagai Ilmu that was written by Prof. Kunto Wijoyo, and what I remembered is Prof. Kunto Wijoyo writes that prophetic social science or other types of scientification of Islam, the goal of that is how the science of Islam could be inclusive for all people, whether they came from different religion, they came from different geography, and whatever that. But what I want to ask is, could the scientification of Islam, whether it is from the Prof. Kunto Wijoyo or another, inclusively connecting all Muslims into this world? Because we have so many borders and limits that we should overcome. And if it's not, then do we still need something to unify all Muslims into this world? That's what I want to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start to answer the questions. Maybe we can answer at once. Start from Prof. Heddy.
Well, Jazakumullah khair. I have an answer that perhaps could give ideas for the different questions. That I believe we need to work in parallel lines. We need to work in a line that is within the system, trying to change it and restructure it, and a line that is outside the system, trying to replace it. The line from within the system, my brother mentioned, for example, the capitalist system. My brother mentioned the epistemology and ontology, and that's Greek philosophy. So we can work within the system in order to redefine epistemology and redefine ontology and redefine banking, and perhaps include some Islamic finances on the financial level. That is working within the system. And in parallel to that, I think we need to work outside the system in a strategy that is aiming to replace the system. And therefore, we try to look for non-capitalist ways of doing economics. Al-Awqaf, for example. Al-Awqaf was the spine of the Islamic economics in our history. Hospitals were awqaf, universities, the relief work, the environmental work, all of this was awqaf, was not a business. And therefore, yes, we can work with education as a business and hospitals as a business and banks as a business within the system, trying to change and Islamize in the wasati Islamization kind of way, but in parallel to try to create markets based on awqaf, that is not based on credits, trying to create hospitals that are not based on the pharmaceutical interests and focuses on the human and the welfare of the human regardless of the medicine, and trying to create systems of finance that are parallel to the banks rather than depending on the banks, and so forth. So to work in those parallel lines with a strategy, I think would be a good idea. Similarly, politically, we can have Islamic parties and we try within the system to change the system, but we should also look at politics outside the system, which my sister mentioned, Doctora mentioned the politics of the Ummah. That is not within the system, because in a nation state, people don't care about the Ummah, really. But if you say that the Ummah is part of our politics, then the nation state will start to change some of its ideology and dogma and try to also give part of the attention and pay from the political capital for the Ummah as well, not just for the sake of elections and so forth. In terms of our sister, the other question, I believe the system will shake. I believe the system will change soon. What's happening in the world is not going to pass just like that, and now we are in the age of peace. I don't think so. I think we are at the cusp of a start of major wars in this world. Anybody with a prediction of what's going to happen in the world would tell you that. And I think that the major wars will be combined with major natural disasters. I believe in that. And I think that this will shake the system. And as an ummah, we should be ready for that. We should be ready for the system when it starts to shake. Because the system is quite fragile. Any volcano anywhere in the world will shut down the internet. Any solar flare will shut down the satellite system. You see, and we're quite in a fragile point. I think the system will shake, and our ummah, inshallah, hopefully, inshallah, will rise to the challenge, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
I would like to respond about to the last question. Yeah, that I think if we learn from the history, actually, the development of science was initiated by the Muslim scholars. So we don't have to worry about inclusivity or exclusivity, because if the science commit to the truth, then it will automatically be inclusive. And we already witnessed in the history, like the mathematics, algebra, algorithm, physics, the science of the light, the optics, the science of, like the engineering. It was started by the Muslim scholars, and it was developed by the Western, like the Renaissance movement. So what we should do is to learn from that, and then we develop the science through the Islamic paradigm, perspective, or belief system, or worldview. Yeah, the problem with the conventional science today is that they are missing the greater purpose of knowledge. They are missing the humility of these scientists, because there's a term called the science delusion. Yeah? Science delusion is represented by the statement that say, I believe in science, but I don't believe in God. So that is science delusion. But actually science started from those who believe in God. And even Isaac Newton, Newton actually also believe in God. Einstein also believe in God. So, but I don't know why, scientists nowadays, they try to avoid, they try to avoid talking about God. They even have the term about that. They call it scientific taboo. You know, if scientists talk about God, they say it's scientific taboo. So I think the problem is, is in our day. It just comes recently. Recently means maybe the last 50 years or something. But if you look back, actually, you don't have to worry about inclusivity or exclusivity. Inshallah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. First, Mas Kunto was actually really concerned about the division or distinguishing religion and science. That is his real problem, because when you use that, then usually you look at science as non-religious, or you see religion as non-scientific. That's the problem. So some scientists tend to reject religion, and some religious people tend to reject science. And that's actually common situation in many cases. Yeah. Now, Mas Kunto wants to break down that separation, and that's why he wants people to see Islam as more scientific. So what we have then is scientific Islam. How we build discourse about Islam or about concepts in Islam scientifically. And actually, it's not very easy, because number one, what we need to do is translating books written by ulamas, by Muslim scholars into English or into Bahasa Indonesia. That's what we have to do. Otherwise, we cannot we know what they thought, what they have thought. Yeah, that's the first. And then second, we need really to understand, discuss the meanings of the keywords, concepts like ummah, musyawarah, and so forth, with really deep thought, so that we can understand better those concepts and use it properly, to make it society better or the political system better, something like that. Yeah. So again, go back to Mas Kunto. That's actually his problem. How we can build our make discourses or discussions, about Islam, but more scientifically, and some ideas in religion can be explained scientifically. That's why also he used structuralism of Levi-Strauss. If you look at his books, try to put that structure into religion, into understanding Islam, so that it's becoming more rational or something like that. And when it becomes more rational, then people may accept that. That's what he wants to do. That's why his ideas, I think the main ideas of Mas Kunto is about scientification of Islam. How make discourse in Islam more scientific, and we can use concepts in science, especially of course Western science, into our discourse in Islam, so that people can understand better and also kemudian can accept that. I think that's the main aim of Mas Kunto when he wrote about Islam as a paradigm. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Prof. Jasser, Prof. Bagus and Prof. Heddy for all kind of answer. Finally, we reached the last sessions. Yeah, we have to round, and due to the time, we don't have enough time to add more questions. Yeah, behalf on the committee, I myself, try to to apology for all kind of lacking some things during my leading on these discussions. And one point or 2 points that I got from our distinguished from our three esteemed speakers, that we need to be more pluralistic, or to endorse pluralisms, to involve every kind of knowledge, to be inclusive epistemologically and also ontologically, as Mr. Praja said before. Okay, thank you very much. I will return back to the MC. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Rodinal Khair Khosri, for leading the session, and also to the speakers for delivering such an informative presentations. And for the moderator and speakers, we kindly request you to return to your seats so that we can take a group photo together with the audience. So yeah, the photographer will capture the photo from the stage. And so we kindly invite all the invited guests and participants to move forward to the centers so all of us can include in the photos. Okay, please move forward to the center. Yeah, we will take a photo. Photographer. Okay, so the photographer will take a picture of us from the stage. Okay, for the mass photographer, please give us a cue so we can prepare our best smile. Okay, basically it's a freestyle. You can. Oh. Okay, and we invited the moderator, the speakers, and the invited guests for taking a picture in the stage with the background. Okay. We invite all the invited guests and the parties and the moderator and speakers to come forward to the stage. Okay, for the photographer, please take us a picture. Kenapa? Oh, kita ikut. Mereka foto ini udah tahu momen. Okay, due to our time. Oke, monggo Ibu. Ada ikut juga nggak apa-apa. Monggo Ibu. Oh, saya Pak. Ibunya minta fotoin, All right, thank you. And we kindly ask you, ask all the distinguished guests and participants to take your respective seats so we can move to our next session.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave the room, we would like to make some announcement. Please maintain cleanliness and orderliness within the campus environment. Do not leave trash and litter in the event area. Participants may immediately leave and perform the duhur prayer outside the ballroom area, or you can also perform it on second floor.
Okay, that concludes the International Seminar on Islamic Thought and Civilization 2025. On behalf of the organizing committee and as your Master of Ceremonies today, we both are deeply grateful for your presence and participation during this event. We hope to see you again on the next International Seminar on Islamic Thought and Civilization. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.